The New York Times cited a Russian security contractor in Syria and an opposition politician in Moscow as confirming the death. But the Kremlin says it has no knowledge of that. The Russian mercenaries were reportedly killed in a U.S. attack on regime troops near the provinces of Deir Ezzor. Let's get more on this and speak to Dan Ashby, who is in Moscow for us. Dan, so various reports about the numbers of Russians killed. What more do we know about them and exactly what happened?
Yes, as you say, even the numbers of those killed is hotly contested. On the one hand, you have these reports that hundreds of people were killed in this attack on the US-backed base, and most of them were Russians. That seems to have come from family members of the deceased, some sources within the US administration. But then you have state media outlets in Russia saying that reports of large-scale casualties was classic disinformation. So the numbers killed are contested. What we do know is that there were some deaths, and of course this was an attack on a US-backed base. In terms of who they are, that is not particularly clear either. The Russians who were killed appear to be mercenaries, and this outfit known as Wagner, which is a private military company, has been named. We know that they do hire people, hire particularly Russians, pay them more than $3,000 a month to fight in conflicts like Syria. Of course, Wagner aren't available for comment, and the Kremlin itself has just distanced itself from these deaths completely, saying they are not Russian troops and it has no information on them.
And how do you think this entire incident is going to go down internationally? Are there going to be any repercussions?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? I mean, this could be the first clash between US troops and Russians since the Vietnam War, which of course is very concerning. But both sides, both the US administration and the Kremlin, are distancing themselves from it. Of course, the Kremlin, as I say they aren't Russian troops. The Americans, for their part, say they're puzzled by this because before the attack happened, they phoned in to the de-escalation hotline. They notified the Russians that this attack seemed to be occurring towards their base, and the Russians appeared to give it the go-ahead. So the US side seems to accept the Kremlin answer that these weren't Russian troops, and the Russians say they're looking into it as well. So I think there's no appetite on either side to escalate this incident into a global crisis, and both are trying to work out what's happened.